All right, today we're gonna be going over just a whole haircut. I'm just gonna cut him up and teach you a couple different things. Obviously we'll do our temp fade. We're gonna lay this down. What he wants is the side lay down. He wants to keep the top a little bit just to keep it curly, have that little sponge look, but he doesn't want it all the way around his head because he's trying to maintain it in between his work schedule, look professional, but still give him a little style. So we'll trim this a little bit, but we still want to keep it curly. I'll show you how to blend this from around the parietal ridge down. That way you don't have to have all this bulk just sitting right here. And then we'll just line him up, and then we'll touch up his beard, give him a nice, sharp, crisp line up, and yeah, he'll be transformed. First thing I'm gonna do, he likes his temp fades high, so we're gonna take this up a little bit. Same thing on both sides. Now he likes the fade on the side kind of to be like almost the whole side, but definitely higher than what we normally would do. On the sides now, you see up here around the parietal ridge, obviously I've cut his hair before, but he likes this lower, almost like wavelength, with still being able to blend it into the top. So I'm gonna take a 2. As you remember, I always tell you, like, even when you're doing temp fades, a 2 will give you enough darkness to where you can blend anything into it. So I'm gonna take this and we're gonna go from about the parietal ridge, and we're gonna go down. And this is kind of the same formula, like if you're gonna do like a high top box. Most people struggle with that kind of haircut because they're like all around here. It's almost like a person took the fade up and then sat it right here and then tried to, make it go straight. But the key to it is you want to go from the parietal ridge or the crown down, and then right where that ridge is, it to go straight up. So we're gonna lay this down. All the way around. And we're just taking a 2 straight to that. Now, depending on some textures, you may have to go as high as a 3, but the 2 most times will get it done. And as you can see, even with me cutting down a lot of the hair, you can still see the blend to where it'll, it's dark enough to where you don't have no drastic bulkness. Also, another thing you can do is you see how I'm coming on an angle. So if you have a little, like if you comb it down and there's a little overhang, you kind of like cross cut it just a little bit, but with the clippers. So now if I wanted to, I could pick this out, pick it straight up. Now if I wanted to box this, I could come straight across here and box it and still have my waves on the side. Obviously that's not the type of haircut, that he wants, but that's definitely something that can be done. Now on the side, what I want to do is take it a little bit lower. So I'm gonna go with a 1.5, and I'm gonna go just below where I just was. So I'm not going up as high, and I'm going a little bit below with a 1.5. As most of you know, wavelength is usually a 2 or a 1.5, depending on texture. But I haven't even went with the grain yet, so I've cut this whole head just pretty much with the grain. So it's still low enough, because most times clients don't like, they be like, man, it gets a little too bushy around my ears. Like, they like the style of the longer hair, but then they're like, man, it gets around my ears, it gets a little too bushy, and it gets crazy. So now I can go back to a 2. And just go up on it just a little bit. And what this is gonna do is it's gonna cut that little extra hair off all the way around my line. So it's gonna give me a nice, more laid canvas for when I wanna line up. And it doesn't take away from my look. So it's not a fade, it's gonna get all that little loose hair that, you know, makes your lineup look beat a couple days later. In the back, I'm gonna kind of leave it alone. And it's just, see how all this little bushy, when I cut it, it's gonna lay. And I'm just trying to get a little bit. I ain't trying to take off too much, because I don't want it to affect the look. This is just a little detail. So all the way around is laid down. Now, as you remember, I told you everything pretty much can start from a temp fade, can start with a 2. So I still have the 2 on here. And now I'm gonna create this high temp fade. How I normally would do every temp fade. 1.5, still closed, just because I know I went with a 1.5 down on it. Now, as I'm going up on my corners, I'm using just this little bit. So in slow-mo, that's kind of how it would look. But if I go back fast, that's a detail right there you can't necessarily pick up from just watching a video. Now I'm gonna take a 1, and I'm gonna open it up all the way. Still in slow-mo. I'm using just this little bit. Just using the corners. Even though you may think I'm using the whole blade, I'm not. Because if I went like this, all I would do is create more lines. Close it a little bit, about a notch or 2, depending on texture, depending on your feel, depending on your hand. You got a more experienced hand, you can kind of feel where you need to be. Close it all the way. And as I'm going lower, like as far as my notches, I'm coming up underneath where I was the last time. Now, if I need to go a little bit higher to get a strand of hair or something, I tilt the clippers even a little bit more to go up a little higher. That's just a little fine tuning when you're blending. Then I could take this half and do the same thing closed. Or I could skip over that. You know, I could do it like this if I want to. You know what I mean? For beginners, you know, this is a little safety proof. You know what I mean? Just to give you that extra sense of security, that extra level to go through when you're making your blends. But for a little bit more advanced, you're not taking that step. You're just gonna go ahead and go straight to nothing. If you remember what we put it in with, right? The gold FX is basically an outliner, is what we put it in with. So ultimately, that's what we have to come back to. take this, what we used in the beginning, and we're just gonna take a little bit of, just using the corner. Now, if you look at that blend, that looks good, right? Done. So then we would start to fade into the beard. Close it. The same thing you start when you're coming down on this, you do the opposite. So you just kind of take the fading up approach. Instead of fading down like we just did, you take the fading up approach when you're reducing the beard into a blend. What that looks like is this. So first thing I do is I close my clippers all the way. Then I open them up about halfway. Then I open it up all the way. If it's a little bit longer beard, I can take my one, closed all the way, and just inch down as you go higher in guards, right? And then you knock out your blend. You wanna do another little fine tuning, you can come down, you know what I mean? Just a little bit like that. But that's how you get your blend into your beard. If you feel like it's a little darker right here, you can just kind of touch it just a little bit.